Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Reality Writes. I am author Ellie Alexander. This is the podcast where we discuss all things bookish, writerish, and we try to give you a look behind the scenes at the writing life and everything that goes into sending a book out into the world. And I am here today with the tech guy.
Hello, hello. We're talking about some more controversial writerish, readerish topics this week.
Ooh, it's going to get ugly, Rita's darlings. No, it's not. Well, I don't know. It might.
But first, I want to start out by reading a message we got from a listener via the send us a message link that I'm always talking about with our episodes. This came in on our last episode where you talked all about your writing process and how everything that goes into that and the progression over time. This is a message from Erica in Tigard, Oregon. She said, "Ellie, I'm so excited to hear this. I've taken your masterclass and I'm almost done with my first draft again."
Yay! Right? Yeah, totally, Erica. That's good though. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's really great. So it sounds like Erica has been following the process that you talked about in that episode, and she is almost done with the first draft of a book, which is a massive accomplishment.
It's such a huge accomplishment, and it usually takes a few rounds, like we talked about in the last episode of Reality Right. So yay to you, Erica, for sticking with it. I think that's honestly the hardest part. It's so easy to get discouraged and just give up. So you didn't. You're almost there. Home stretch.
That's right. That's right. And for anybody else that wants to get in touch, just go to the show notes of the episode you're listening to and click that send us a message link, and you can send us a message via text or even voice if you so choose.
Love it.
Today, we're going to talk about 5 controversial readerish hills that you would die on. 5 topics that people have very strong opinions about.
Well, before we dive into, we did an episode about this a while ago. And when we did my first 5 bookish hills that I would die on, at the end, we said, I think there's plenty of material for part 2. So this is part 2. And as I was thinking about hills that I will die on as a reader, then I was like, I think there's plenty of material for part 3, maybe part 4. So darlings, this might be never ending. I don't know.
Yeah. If there are topics that we do not cover in this part 2, be sure to let us know in the comments and or via send us a message. And maybe there's a part 3 in the near future. Who knows?
Or maybe it just means that I am very opinionated when it comes to reading and books. And I don't think I am, but I clearly am because I feel strongly about all 5 of these.
Yeah. You actually briefed me on this episode this week, so I know what the topics are, and I feel strongly about them as well.
Oh, okay. I can't wait. All right. Yes. So without further ado, I will share my number 1 bookish hill that I would die on, which is that I never, ever, ever, ever read a review about a book that I am reading until after I have finished the book or after I have decided that I'm not finishing the book. Because as we talked about in that first version of this, I am completely okay with embracing DNF. If I don't love a book, it's not resonating with me, it just means it's not for me. And maybe it's not for me right then, but I set it aside. I don't want to be swayed by anyone else's opinion of a book while I am reading the book. But as soon as I finish, whether I love a book, whether it's kind of mid, or whether I just have so much to figure out about what just happened in said book, then I will go and read reviews. And not because I'm necessarily interested in how someone's rating it, but I'm just so hungry after the fact to figure out like, oh, who are the other darlings that felt like me? Or did you pick up on those themes? Or did I miss things? Or, anything like that. But I don't want to be tainted. I don't want to go into a read having any sense of what other people are thinking until I've finished.
Yeah. And the other thing about that too is with negative reviews, especially, you don't know what's going on in that person's life. Like maybe they loved the book, but they were just having a really, really hard time in life at the time. And it was cathartic to just like unleash on the poor author.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, maybe the book was deserving of the negative review too. I mean, there is that, but yes, I agree. It's just really, you want to form your own opinion, and you can't do that if you read about what everyone else thinks before you start a book.
But see, in our relationship, this is also true for me in any sort of media. Like if we go to a movie, I don't know anything about it. Maybe short of seeing the previews. Sometimes I haven't even seen the previews. I'm just in for the title or the concept. And then the minute we get home, I have to then go and figure out what reviewers are saying and like hash it out right after the fact, which is the same for the book. I don't know if you're as like militant about needing to know what other people think after you finish a book or movie, or you're more like sly about it, I guess, if you do.
Well, on the topic of movies, I think I tend to know more about them going into seeing them than you do, just naturally, because it's a topic I'm really interested in. So a lot of the times I'll learn about plot points and everything just through maybe learning more about the production of the movie and, you know, the special effects or the practical effects or things like that.
But like with a book, let's say you've just finished Dungeon Carl, why can I never say that? Dungeon Crawler Carl, or like a Martha Wells book. Like when you finish, I never see you like racing to go see what other people think afterwards. Do you?
I mean, the truth of the matter is, I don't care what other people think. So
There it is. Yeah.
I honestly, the only book reviews I read on occasion are reviews of your books, and then you tell me not to because, like, somebody will leave some unhinged review that's completely false, and I'll get all spun up, and you'll be like, "Let it
Yeah.
go, let it
It's fine.
go."
Yeah.
So I actually, this is not a topic I have a problem with because I just don't read reviews.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
thought. Yeah. That's
yeah,
my sense. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, where I definitely read reviews after the fact. After the fact, because I want my opinion validated. I want it confirmed, whether I love it or I hate it. I want to have that point of connection with other readers to feel like, oh, okay, yes, yes, you love that too. Okay.
Well, and part of the reason for me is I have some friends who are readers who are extremely opinionated about books, and they'll tell me, "Oh, you will love this one, or you should love this one," and I'm like, you know what? I'll decide if I love it or not. Like that's
You know what?
yeah.
Fine.
So yeah, it's great that they love it. I mean, and that's the thing for me with reviews. Like, if somebody doesn't like something, great, they don't like it. I don't know why you need to tell everybody else about it.
Okay, darlings, we want you to weigh in. What do you think about this? Do you read reviews before, after, during a read? Like, do you have a policy? I'm super curious.
No, and obviously thousands and thousands of people write reviews, so I don't think they'd be writing them if people weren't reading them. But I am curious to know what the darlings out there, what their opinion is on this particular hill.
Hmm. Well, I'm still dying on this hill. After.
Okay,
After is the only answer.
after,
After. Hmm.
love it, love it. All right, what's number two?
Number two, this one is definitely going to be a hot topic. I know before these words even escape my lips, and that is you should read a series in order. Really, you absolutely should read a series in order. And of course, I'm saying that as someone who writes series, but as a reader, I read series in order because I want to know all the things. I want to go on a journey with a character. I want to see them develop. I want the emotional payoff of knowing who they were when they started and where they are at book 15. I want it all. I want it all. I do not want to jump in midway through a series. I have actually never done that in my entire reading career. I always start from book one.
I could not agree more with with you on
Yes.
this one.
Got him.
No, I mean, I would be physically ill. And listen, darlings, I understand this is probably a problem, but I would be physically ill if I read a book and found out that it was book 2 or 3 after the fact.
Yeah.
My brain might break at that point. I just might, I would be so disappointed in myself. Devastated is the word that comes to mind.
Devastated.
Devastated. There's a reason that the books are written in the order that they're written in. So I think, you know, I'm a rule follower. I follow instructions. I read the instructions. I follow the rules. So if there's a book series and it's a series in order, I'm going to read it in order. I am curious though. I do have a question that I hadn't thought of before, but you as an author obviously chose to write the series or any series that you write. You obviously choose to write those books in a specific order. Like you didn't write Live and Let Pie before you wrote Meet Your Baker. So you already have an idea of there being kind of a linear storyline that goes that spreads throughout the series. So do you expect readers to do the same, to follow that linear path?
I know. I want readers to do the same. I'm less of a rule follower than you are, but when it comes
Oh
to
yeah, that
series
is
reading,
100% true, darlings.
yeah.
100%
I mean,
true.
rules are suggestions. They are open to interpretation. You should break them. But no, when it comes to series, yes. And I hear from darlings all the time who jump into the series, the Bake Shop Let's Use, the Bake Shop Mysteries. I mean, because book 23 comes out this fall. That's a lot of books. That's a big ask for somebody to say, like, hey, you want to start at book one and you have to commit to reading 23. Like, I understand. And there are lots of books in the world. And I do appreciate it when I hear from darlings who pick the series up at Live and Let Pie or book 4, book 17, or whatever it is. My job as a writer, of course, is to give you enough backstory to hopefully set the world and the scene so that you are sinking in and you're not super lost. But there is so much that goes into building a series, and all of the characters and the secondary characters, they all have arcs and growth journeys. And for me as a reader like you, I don't want to jump into a series and then learn, that this like romance that I was shipping at the beginning, oh, that they broke up or they're long married now. Like I lose the thrill of some of that. And then of course, with mysteries, a lot of times you have some sort of subplot, which is often
Mhm.
another mystery or something else that readers are solving. So if you jump in partway through, like you might miss out on all of that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think especially with a long running series, like just taking the Bake Shop Mysteries as an example, the 23rd book comes out
Wow.
in just a couple months. And with that 23 books, if you just started on book 18, for example, there might be characters who have been introduced 3 or 4 books into the series and have left since then that you would not even know about at all
Yeah.
if you started later. So it is those are the types of things I worry about. Now, hey, I get it. Some people doesn't matter to them, and that's great. It just like I said, it would break my brain. If I started, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I would the whole
No.
time I would be thinking about what did I miss in the first, whatever number of books.
Yeah, it's too much FOMO. I'm just going to be jealous of anyone who went all the way along. I will say, though, from a writing perspective, it is the highest compliment that I can get when a reader reaches out and says, I just picked up book 20 and I was fully in that world and I loved it and I'm going to go back or I'm going to keep reading from this point forward. We're just starting to get early reviews of the Pumpkin Vice Cafe, which is book 23 in. And I can't believe how many new readers there are that are sharing reviews and saying, this was my first book and I loved it. So, like, that makes me feel good because I want to make sure as a writer that I am able to put you in that position, even if there are, let's say, characters like you mentioned who have come and gone, if they happen to come back, let's say, for Pumpkin Vice. I'm not saying they are, but long term darlings might be like, ooh, say more. Um, that I give you enough background and backstory so that you feel really knowledgeable about the world you're living in temporarily.
Yeah, and you do get those comments all the time. I see them come through the website, and it's always, and with that many books, I guess there are a lot of opportunities for people to start
Right.
mid-series, especially people who use the library, for
Yes.
example, and you get to maybe you want to start the series, but the first 3 books are on hold until October or whatever. So you start with book 4 and go from there, and then you can go back and read them later. And it is so from a writing perspective, that has always been something that has really I've just been amazed by that you're able to do that and keep people as interested.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it when readers do give something a try because for me, being this, rigid, I guess, on needing to start a series from the beginning, I might be missing out on other series that I'm not willing to give a try because I'm like, oh, that's a lot of books. Or, sometimes even with the same thing, like TV shows where you're like, oh, that looks great. Oh, there are 20 seasons. Like, do I want to commit? So I appreciate you, darlings, when you do jump in. I appreciate you. I still am dying on the hill that I'm starting a series from book one.
Right. Yeah. All right. So, darlings out there listening, do you read a series in order? I want to know. And if you don't, I have to know, how do you not do it?
How tell us.
Yeah, I have to know. Okay. What's hill number 3?
Ooh, hill number 3 is I think it's so important to give yourself a break from whatever genre you've been binging for a while. So I've been in a mystery kick. I've been reading so many mysteries the last few months. And I just got to one that was not a match for me at all. And so sometimes I think this is true if you really have gotten into like a reading slump, that it's important to shake it up and try a different genre. But sometimes I think it's important just to give yourself a break. So I'm reading a nonfiction right now that is completely different than mysteries. I'm taking a break, and then I'll come back to it. And I do that a lot because I am the type of reader who tends to go deep into whatever genre. I will read historical fiction for months and months and months on end. And then I'll be like, wait, what am I doing? And I think it's important to cleanse our palate, to give something else a try, to give your brain a little break, just to shake it up a little bit. What about you?
That's a tough one because I don't necessarily feel like I intentionally take breaks. I kind of gravitate toward whatever I happen to be in the mood for. I really only read like 3 genres anyway. So
Yeah.
it's like mystery slash thriller, sci-fi, and fantasy are kind of my sweet spot, right? And if you can mash all those into the same book, whew, that's perfection. But yeah, I don't know that I intentionally take a break, but I think that's a good idea. If you're going too far down the path on one particular genre, you're likely to hit a lull where you can't necessarily find a great book to read. And then I could see where that might cause frustration, or maybe stop you, heaven forbid, stop you from reading for a while. So I think, keeping it fresh is always a good thing.
Yeah, and I think then, things tend to blend together. I'm a really fast reader, which is great and also problematic because then I'll be like, did I read that? Oh, yeah, I read that amongst 7 other things that are like that cover that looks the same. And the storyline is
Yeah.
basically the same. And I think shaking up genres then gives me new appreciation when I come back to something. When I'm on a binge for one genre, I take a break, I walk away, and then a month later, I'm like, oh, that's right. That's why I love this. So I do think it's important to kind of, you know, vary what you're reading.
Yeah. It keeps that interest sparked for sure.
Mhm.
All right. For everyone out there, again, do you take a break from the genre that you're stuck in, or do you stick to the same genre over and over and over again? Let us know. What are we at? 1, 2, 3. We're on number 4.
We're on number 4. Okay, this one is a good one, and I'll be curious to hear what darlings think on this one. It's really something that I do quite often, and that is rereading a book is
Mm.
never a waste of time. I always love a reread, especially comfort reads. For example, I love the book I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith, and I stumbled upon it when we were in Portland a few months ago. I've read the book, I don't even know how many times now, but I just slipped back into it and read it in a few days. And it's just like going back, meeting old friends, being wrapped in a warm hug. Like there's just something so comforting about going to back to a book that you are really, really familiar with. But I know some readers feel like that's just kind of a waste of time because your TBR stack is so huge. Why would you reread a book that you've already read?
Yeah, I agree with this one too. I don't think it's a waste of time at all. There are books that, well, I read A Christmas Carol every year.
Yeah.
I love it. Just a few months ago, we were in a bookshop up in Portland, and I saw this historian on the shelf, and I was like, oh, I have to get that again. Scariest book I've ever read in my life, but I want to read it again.
Why?
I don't know why.
You
I
still
don't know
want to
why.
see?
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was very excited to find it and want to read it again. I've read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy probably 7 or 8 times. There are just some books that I can see why people don't. I can see one of the reasons I think people might not reread books is, but besides thinking it might be a waste of time, is maybe especially if you haven't read a book for a long time and you only read it once, going back to reread it, it's maybe going to disappoint you. Maybe it's not all that you've built it up to be. I can see that happening.
I worry about that all the time. And I mean, there is truth to that. I've reread Agatha Christie, I've reread childhood books. And, sometimes pieces of those don't hold up in terms
Yeah.
of modern
Yeah.
culture, right? So there is that element that sometimes I have to like decide, am I willing to look past that because I still, love Agatha's writing or, her storytelling. Even I Capture the Castle, I think you especially run into this if you're rereading books from 100 years ago plus. Jane Austen,
Yeah.
etc. But I feel like there is something to it. And what I think is fascinating is over the last few years, especially with Gen Z and even millennials in the mix now, you see a lot of comfort show rewatching. Like Sky Guy, our kiddo, has rewatched The Office so many times. The entire Office, every season of The Office, so many times he could quote every single episode. But have been studies done where therapists are like, no, this is a way that you are self-soothing and you're comforting yourself because you're slipping back into this world that you're familiar with. You know how it ends, so it's okay. And I'm always fascinated with that because I will hear from darlings who reread cozies and they're like, yeah, I don't really care if I remember who the killer is because I just want to be back in Jules' world, or I want to be in the bookshop with Annie, or I want to be with Sloane. So I do think there's really something to that. It's good for our mental health, is what I'm saying.
And the other thing about this topic and listening to people talk about it too is no one ever brings this up when it comes to movies and TV shows. But
Right.
for books, it's somehow an issue. And I don't get
Hmm.
that at all. You rewatch the same movie 4 times and it's a 2 hour movie. You spend 8 hours watching the same movie and you know what's going to happen. You're not going to be surprised by rewatching the movie any more than you will be by rereading the book. So I don't think it's a waste of time at all. If it makes you happy, go for it.
Yeah. And you could argue with movies, it's the same thing. Yeah. A movie doesn't have a TBR, but there are so many movies that we want to see that we haven't seen, but I'll still sometimes
Yeah.
pick a rewatch over that. So, yeah. I'm curious to hear from you, darlings. I really want to know also, what are the books that you keep going back to? What are your rereads? Are they something that are going to keep you up at night, like The Historian? What the heck?
That's so funny. I was going to ask the exact same thing. I wanted to know if they reread books, but I wanted to know specifically which books they want to, that they do reread. So,
Yes,
yeah,
tell us.
there you go.
I'm going to warn everyone, or you will likely know, darlings, when the tech guy has reread The Historian, because he's going to be like shaking in a corner for every podcast that we do, because that book terrified you 20 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. 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 It's been a couple decades
Yeah.
since I last read it. And honestly, it's not even going to feel like a reread because to be honest, I don't clearly remember all the details of it. It may come back to me as I'm reading it, but I just remember lying in bed, sweating, literally sweating from
Yes.
having read this, and then just laying there, like eyes wide open, like, what was that? You hear that noise? What was that? Just it
Mhm.
was terrifying. I think I might start that tonight.
Okay, great. I'll sleep in another room. It's all good. No, but it will be really fascinating with something like that. Now rereading it with some distance, is it still going to be as scary too? Like
Right.
That all of those things are so fascinating, which again is why I think it's absolutely fine for you to reread a book that you've already read before.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. All right. Brings us to number 5.
Number 5. Whew. These are all actually, I'm surprised. We haven't really we've agreed on more than I thought, actually. This one though, this might be where we have a real
Oh, this is going to break the
disagreement.
streak. Okay.
This might. I mean, I would say there have been a couple that you've been more like mid-level on, or like not one way or the other, but this one I think we have a different opinion on.
Okay.
I say you cannot read more than one book at a time. And I know there are a lot of darlings out there who are reading like 3 books at a time. You can't. You cannot. You have to be fully immersed in the book that you were in. You have to be in the moment. You should only be reading 1 book at a time. One. That's it.
Are you talking about physically, like exactly at the same time, or
Well,
just
yeah.
like?
I mean, yes, that too. You have an audio going and you're reading, and no. Sorry.
No, I am sorry to tell you, but you are 100% wrong on this topic. Not only can you, but I believe that you should read more than one
Oh,
book at a time.
boo.
Because,
Boo.
just hear me out,
Okay.
because I read in bed, I read on vacation, I read while running. I read, audiobooks, just in case somebody thought I was running down the street holding a book in my hands. And I feel like there are different interests during those different activities or times or whatever. So, for example, I can't read a book. I can't start a book while, every night when I'm going to bed, for example, reading on my Kindle or reading the paper copy of it, and then try to find where I'm at in an audiobook while I'm running. So
This seems like
that's
a tech
just
issue. This
that.
seems this is a technicality, is what you're saying.
But the other thing is, there are books where, like, when I'm running, I may listen to a book that I have to concentrate on more for 2 reasons. One, I don't want to read that book while I'm in bed because I will fall asleep and then have to go back 4 or 5 pages every night, and that will be even slower than I already read to finish the book. But 2, if it's something that I have to concentrate on more, it keeps my mind off the excruciating agony of running.
Oh, come on. You're just trying to win sympathy points from the darlings. Darlings, do not buy into this. He's just trying to appease your kind, tender hearts here.
Yeah, so I think right now I'm reading 2. I'm only reading 2 books right now.
Only
Yeah.
reading 2 books.
But I've been known to read 3 or more books at a time. I'm a slower reader than you by far already, and so this really stretches it out, because there've been more than one time where you'll look over and you're like, you're still reading that book, and it'll be like 4 months later, and I'm like,
I
I
know.
haven't finished it yet, but I finished these other 2 books. So.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
okay, I can see your point, and I still disagree, because I think when you are in a world, in a moment, even in fiction, like, I want to be fully, completely present in that world. I don't want anything else distracting me. I feel strongly about this. Like, I don't ever have my phone out when we're watching TV, because I don't like the whole second screen thing. Like, I want to be fully focused on one thing at a time, which is how my brain works too, because that's how I am when I'm writing a book. I am only writing 1 book at a time, because I am creating that world. I'm using all of my energy, all of my creative headspace to be in that world. So I parallel that to the way that I want to read.
Yeah, see, whereas in my mad workshop here, I'm making candles, I got stickers cutting over here, and I'm heat pressing aprons on the other side of the room, all at the same time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I am very curious to hear the darlings weigh in on this, because I have a feeling, darlings, you might side more with the tech guy, but you should not. Don't let his running story sway you from what you know the truth to be, which is that you should not read more than 1 book at a time.
Can you hear the panic in her voice, darlings? She knows that she's going to
Oh,
get outvoted on this one by a lot. The margin is going to be huge.
okay,
So
okay.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. Oh, all right. That is 5 bookish hills to die on for sure.
Yes. And I still maintain now that we have done part 2, I think there's enough for part 3. I still have quite a few thoughts on this topic. So I will save them for the sake of time, but we're coming back to this topic. I can feel it.
Oh yeah, no, she's selling part 3 because she knows she's going to get decimated by number 5 in part
That's right.
2. So she needs
I
a
need
part
it.
3
I need a
to
win. I
even
need
the
a win,
score
darlings.
back. All right. Well, that's 5 bookish hills to die on. Hey, let us know in the comments what you think. Really curious to know, especially number 5. Go with me. Yeah. And and be sure to follow us and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss an episode of Reality Rights, and send us a message. We'd love to hear from the listeners out there. So until next time.
Till next time.